we're going to do something new here today for the Omscholing Dansers, because for me it was very inspiring to hear stories from others about how you do your omscholing and what you choose and how you choose what you want to do. So the Omscholing Dansers is starting a podcast. And today you will witness the live recording of the very first episode of that podcast. And yeah, we heard his name several times today. Quite a lot. Paul Bronkhorst. In 1986, he became the face and for many dancers, the conversation partner of Omscholing Dansers. That was for almost 40 years, that is now. He has been the face of Omscholing. He was just knighted by the king. He received a ribbon for all his beautiful work. And now it's time to retire and to head off to Curaçao. Of course, the very first guest of the very first podcast of Omscholing Dansers, Paul Bronkhorst. So, Paul, how is today for you so far?
Is this working? Overwhelming. At the same time, I've been hearing these stories my whole career. And that's what made my job a lot of fun. Not necessarily the situation where dancers were in, but knowing that I would be able to sort of at least try to support them into a new direction.
Yeah.
That is the most satisfying part of my job, I think.
Yeah. Let's start with Omscholing Dansers Nederland. Can you briefly describe what Omscholing Dansers Nederland does? Briefly, yeah.
Briefly. In the most simple version, it's two things. It's offering career guidance to dancers who have questions about what they want to do as dancers or after their dancing career. The second thing is giving them financial support once they've figured out what they would like to do, and in that way provide them the opportunity to really bring it into practice.
Yeah. And why is it important that that happens?
Yeah, that was quite funny. You mentioned just when you had your talk, you mentioned the word luxurious, which has always been a surprise to me. Luxurious in terms of, okay, you give people the freedom to re-educate themselves and find a new way in life. At the same time, what I realize, it's a normal labor condition in a way. Dancers do not make that much money that they can set money aside to create the situation for themselves. Dancers is a profession where at some point you will have to choose a different path. This is not necessarily something you do voluntarily, especially those dancers who have started at a very young age. It has been said already, also before, that as a dancer you start at a young age, you identify yourself completely with what you're doing. There's a really fine line between who you are and what you do. You can even question whether this exists. I heard Jos say how to handle this identity issue. I think one of the issues that I missed in this discussion is you can feel pain and you can mourn about that, and there's nothing wrong with that. So feel grief and take the time to do so. One of the loopholes of making a career transition, for instance, is that if you are used to working so hard as dancers do, you want to get rid of this career transition, or you want to get over this career transition as in the same pace, at the same speed. Forget that. You need time, and take your time. And in that sense, I don't think it's a luxurious thing.
It's an essential thing.
It's an essential. I think it's a normal labor condition in a way. Just like we were talking about retirement, I'm very happy. I received my first pension yesterday in my bank account. That's a bit weird. If you open the webpage and you see it standing on your
bank account.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird experience. But anyway, this is something you have been working for your whole life, and I think obviously you can deserve that. And I think that's the same with dancers, but they still have an enormous career in front of them. what we see is that the general career, let's say, is getting longer and longer. Younger generations retired when they were 65. I retired when I'm 67. So the end of a dance, the end of a career is postponed in a way. That is not the case with the average age that people stop dancing. That's still around 34. So it's becoming more and more important to prepare for that second part of your professional life in a way.
Yeah. So you are retiring now. Talking about that mourning process, is that also for you the case? Are you mourning the end of your career?
In a way, I do. Yeah.
Or are you celebrating? It can also be.
Well, it's a bit. That's also the case with. Sometimes I talk to dancers and they feel guilty that they don't feel pain, or they feel relieved that they can make a career change. That happens when you're working in a company with really tight rules and you have this 24/7 schedules. Then it is really legitimate to feel relieved and take another path. And it's always this mixture of feelings that you are confronted with. It's the same when you lose somebody in your life. When you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you split up, you can feel relief, but at the same time feel pain.
Yeah.
In a way, I've made that comparison before. When you quit dancing, it's like saying goodbye to your girlfriend or boyfriend. And it's normal that you don't have another boyfriend or girlfriend the next day. At least sometimes the cause may be, but okay, that's a different story.
And no, but that's an interesting comparison. And also maybe that boyfriend or girlfriend had some good points and some points that you maybe didn't like so much.
True,
about
very
them.
true, yeah.
Interesting. When you started at Omscholing Dansers, like almost 40 years ago, you were a career advisor. What was your connection to dance?
I didn't have any connection to dance, at least not immediately. Now you mention that, because I was struck by Jos, who was talking about the difference between a career and a loopbaan. I was trained, as we call it in Dutch, beroepskeuzeadviseur. As if you could help, and beroepskeuze, if I would translate it in English, would something be like you help somebody to choose a profession. That suggests that if you do one profession for the rest of your life. Now that has changed. People have done my education, they are career coaches, so they're loopbaanadviseurs. And it has much more respect for the phenomenon that Jos explained.
Yeah.
And now I forgot your question.
No, I was wondering what your connection was to dance when you started at Omscholing.
When I was working as a traditional career coach in a traditional institution, and we received a letter from Mia van Santen, and she was running what was called the Social Institute for Dance. What she did was trying to improve the situation for dancers, and also helping them when they had to face a career transition, to make the next step into the rest of the world, let's say. In the letter she wrote she wanted to meet someone who was a traditional career coach, and then I had a couple of conversations with her to discuss how she worked and what we were doing, and try to make a comparison, which was really nice. And this was in the phase that the Netherlands Institute for Dance, which existed from 1986 to 1993, was founded, or it was created. And she had already mentioned to me that she wasn't very happy when she would have to move from her own free space, she was working from home, to move in an institute and to work under a boss.
Yeah.
A boss, not a bus.
Boss, yeah.
So at the moment when the Institute for the Dance was really existing, I heard about the vacancy and applied for the job and got it.
Yeah, and so then it was time to watch some dance, maybe, because you had no connection before?
Yeah, well, it's a sheer coincidence, but in the same period I saw the first dance performance with the Dutch National Ballet, which I thought was quite fun.
And there were many after, I think.
Well, there was obviously a point in my life where dance came to me in a way. Like I said, I saw the first performance. I met Mia van Santen. I met my current husband, so to speak. I know who he is, Bram. So it came together in one way.
It all came together.
Yeah.
So from Omscholing Dansers, the government is supporting also this career transition of dancers. Why should they do that?
Well, actually, the government is not supporting.
There's no government component.
There used to be government funding until 2009, when I think it's called the General Audit Room from the government told the Ministry of Culture that funding the omscholingsregeling was against the principles of the Wet of de Cultuursubsidiëring. Can you translate that?
So yeah, there's cultural funding for companies, and by also funding the transition of careers of dancers, it would be like a double funding.
Well, they thought that it's a primarily responsibility between dancers and companies. It's a labor condition, so they should take care of it themselves.
Do you agree with that?
Not really. Because when you educate a dancer, and in general, the art schools are the most expensive schools. So if you educate people to become a dancer, you support that quite heavily. Then when you have a vulnerable career, at the end of the career, you can also do something in that area, I think, as a government.
Yeah. So yeah, what would you advise the government for the future? Because they also need the people.
True. I'm not sure I'll be the person who advises the governments, and especially not the government that we are awaiting now. Although I would love to tell them what I think. But let's say overall, I think it's important that they can take the responsibility for the career after a dancing career.
Yeah. In your career, you heard a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, a lot of new career plans of dancers. Have there been things that you doubted?
Oh, many.
Tell us about it.
No, I've been talking to dancers, and when you hear all those stories, you think, I'm not sure that's realistic, but okay.
What kind of things were the things you thought of, oh, this is not realistic?
Well, it's a bit hard to just explain it without relating it to people, and I think the dance world is quite small, so it would be maybe not a smart idea.
Can you point one out? Like a little general?
Where did you have your training as an interviewer?
Omscholing Dansers supported me doing that.
Okay. Well, there have many examples. The people, for instance, we have had a number of pilots people who want to become a pilot, which is quite an intense and quite expensive.
It's quite a bold plan to become a pilot after a dance career.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of dedication.
True. But at the same time, what I want to be careful with is to create a norm where you have to, because it has been said again also here today, dancers who do have lots of transferable skills, they're able to work very hard. That's something they're used to. But then it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a very high prestigious second career. You can also fail. That is an option, I think.
So do you think then it can be an option to at least try to become that pilot, surgeon?
Yeah, certainly you should do that. Yeah, I know quite a few people indeed who have. I remember a dancer from a company in The Hague. I won't mention any names, but she had already 3 children. And she started doing a very similar university study as Miriam has done, which I thought was amazing when you are able to do that and then in the end graduate cum laude, which is, I think, amazing.
Yeah.
If you have a family, if you have had a career like this, and then you have to organize that to bring it to a good ending, and then that happens.
Have you also heard stories of people who chose something and along the way they figured out that it was not their thing?
That happens. And again, what I think is incredibly important is when you have someone at your desk and talking about a future career, the first and most important thing is to respect people, and the ideas they have. And you might feel that it may not be the right choice, but still people are allowed to figure that out themselves. And make a mistake and come back to us. And I remember we were talking about how dancers are used to train everything and to be perfect. I remember a dancer who wanted to become a teacher on the primary school, and she thought she had to really learn all the rules and details from accounting and language and everything. So she got really stuck, because that can be a loophole as well. If you wanted to focus too much on the detail, you forget about the big line, let's say.
Yeah, so that is maybe that strive for perfection and trying to aim for the highest, that is not always beneficial when you are exploring new fields.
True, it can be a backlash, true.
Can be a backlash. You yourself, during your career at Omscholing, I bet you also had struggles. I know you would come to our company once a year maybe, and there were some difficult times also at Omscholing. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, there have been lots of difficult times, I think. The thing is that the omscholingsregeling is not me. It's something you do with other people as well. And I'm totally grateful for the support we had from, for instance, at the time the DOD or the NPK, which was the employers' corporation, and also the union supporting the existing of the omscholingsregeling. And in that way, it was a shared effort to bring it to a good ending.
To do it together.
It is true, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it is true, it's never been a dull moment with the omscholingsregeling. Yeah.
How do you see the future of the omscholingsregeling?
Exciting. I'm very happy with the team that we have right now. I'm very excited about Brandon taking over. He's doing things differently, which is a bit weird we have been working together now since March. But that's part of the retirement, I think. You have to take a distance, and what he's doing is great. So I totally trust what's going to be.
If you want to say, if you can say one thing to him, what would it be for the coming up time at Omscholing of Brandon? What would you advise him?
I've probably said it already, but stay courageous.
Stay courageous. And what do you want to say to all the dancers that still are looking for a new career?
Stay courageous. No, I really think there's nothing. It's like Alberto said, when you're in a stage like this, you're really insecure. And you should indeed realize you have lots of skills and traits that you have accrued during your dancing career that are very helpful to use in the second career. And what most dancers do not realize, when they started their dancing careers, or the dancing education, they were probably with 40, 50 students in the class. It's quite normal that they end up with 10. And then you go into a company or you build up a career. So you've taken so many hurdles. You're fine in dealing with this hurdle. It's just one of them.
You can deal with this hurdle. That's beautiful. Paul, what did your time at Omscholing bring you?
Lots. I've felt always very privileged to be able to work with dancers. Like I said, the stories we've heard today have been very inspiring, and my job was hearing those stories, which has always been very pleasant. I've seen quite a big part of the world through the visits we had. I'm totally happy that my colleague from London, Vanessa, is here. So you meet lots of people, and in that sense, I feel very enriched.
Thank you, Paul. This would be the end of this podcast, and yes, you can definitely applaud for Paul.